Hello there, and welcome back. Today, we're going to be making one of my all-time favorite dishes, hands down, a New York Style Cheesecake. And I'm going to show you how to do it. And for your convenience, here's the ingredients. So I'm gonna be honest, I thought about saving this recipe until sometime next year. Being that it's one of my all-time favorite dishes, I thought it might do better once the channel was just a little bit larger, but I feel like I'd be doing a little bit of a disservice by not showing you this recipe. Now I've toned it down just a little bit from how I normally make it, if I'm being honest. So one day in the future, once the channel's a little bit larger, I'll go back and revisit this and show you the little more advanced way that I like to make this, but for now, this is a good start if you've never made a baked cheesecake. My grandma used to make cheesecakes here and there when I was a kid, and it was always one of my absolute favorite dishes besides the snickerdoodles. And there's something just inherently nostalgic about it to me. It's still one of my favorite dishes to make throughout the year. I try and make one for myself every year for my birthday. It's just a magical food, so I'm here to share it with you. But enough with all the jibber jabber. Let's get into the prep. To get this all started and kinda on the road, we're gonna need some graham cracker, a Ziploc bag, half a cup of butter, our brown sugar and cinnamon, a bowl, and our old friend, Roly Boy. Similar to the Captain Crunch chicken video, we're just gonna take our graham crackers and put them in our bag. You can give them a little bit of a pre-break in their container, just to make the rolling and smashing a little easier. Get all the air out of there, give it a seal. And while I'm smashing these, I'm just going to melt my butter on the stovetop so that it's ready to go when I need it. But for now, let's get smashing. You could also put these in a food processor and get a little more of a uniform consistency, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. They don't have to be perfect, they just have to taste good. And we're looking for about the same consistency as panko breadcrumbs. We don't want a powder. We do want this all to be pretty well broken up. That should do alright for what we need it for. Now I need about 2 cups of our smashed graham crackers. Put in just a little bit extra just because I feel like it. There's going to be a little bit left. That's fine. Save it for the next cheesecake you make, or maybe you can think of something else to bread with it. I might think of something in the meantime and make another video. Who knows? Now go ahead and add your brown sugar and your cinnamon. And give that a little mix, just to get all those sugars and cinnamons and graham crackers and all those flavors mixed together so that they can all be good friends in there. Perfect. We're off to a good start. Now just go ahead and add your melted butter to your graham cracker, and with the help of our friend Spatchy Boy, we're going to make sure we get all the butter out of our saucepan. Now the butter's going to be a little bit warm, so I'm going to start mixing everything together with the rubber spatula so that I don't burn myself, and then once it's cooled down just a skosh, I'll go ahead and use my hands to make sure it's all incorporated pretty well. And the brown sugar in this basically is going to help the graham crackers stick together, and that cinnamon's going to give it a little bit of an elevated flavor so that that graham cracker crust complements the New York cheesecake really well. It's cooled down. I'm going to make sure that I've got this all really well incorporated. We want the graham cracker pretty well saturated with butter. And the butter here is just going to help everything kind of stick together in the bottom of the pan so that it's not super crumbly, and butter has great flavor. I've got a 9-inch springform pan that I'm going to use. It's got a little tab to help me get the cheesecake out of there later, but if you don't have one of these, you can use a cake pan if you want, or a pie dish if you've got one laying around, or if you don't bake that much, just get yourself some of these cheap aluminum ones from the grocery store. But this works extremely well for this, so I'm going to use it. I pre-cut some parchment paper to fit in the bottom, just so our graham cracker doesn't stick after it's cooked. And I'm going to take all of this and just put it in here. And then go ahead and press that down evenly into the mold. And I'm going to try and take just a little bit of it and run it up the walls of this springform pan. Now you're never going to get this perfect. I certainly never do. But you can try if you'd like. But it's not a huge deal. If there's little inconsistencies along it, it's not going to make a difference. It's not going to hurt the flavor. But I do want a little bit of a crust on the outer edge of the cheesecake. Press the rest of this in really good to the bottom. Make sure it's evenly distributed. Make sure it's not going to move very much when we go to put our cheesecake batter in there. And then we're just going to set this off to the side for now. And if you've been on this channel for a little while, you know that I try and not use any electronic devices to make any of these dishes, just so you know it's possible no matter what you have in your kitchen. As long as you have a little stainless steel bowl or something to mix it in, you'll be fine. But I've got to come clean. We are going to need some kind of powered device for this. You're gonna need a blender or a food processor for this recipe. I'm sorry, there's no avoiding it. You could try and make it without these items, but it's never going to turn out the same. So if you don't have a food processor, if you don't have a blender, you either probably don't want to make this recipe, or you could get a cheap one for like $20 or $30, and then you'll have it for other recipes that you might find that need it. But for today's video, I'm going to be using a Ninja blender because it works pretty well. And the reason we need a device like this is so that we can churn the dairy and the eggs and all the ingredients that are in the batter to help make it fluffier and lighter so that we don't end up with a really dense cheesecake. If there's one thing I can't stand, it's a super dense cheesecake. You want it to be light and fluffy and just kind of dance in your mouth, and that's why we need it. For now though, to get everything started, we're just going to go ahead and use a stainless steel bowl. We're going to start with our pound of cream cheese. And once you have that in there, go ahead and add your sugar. And then we're going to need our old friend, Spatchy Boy, to help us try and incorporate some of that sugar and cream cheese and break this all apart so that it's a little bit easier on the food processor or blender or whatever you're using. And once it's a little broken apart, go ahead and use your hands to try and get as much sugar into that cream cheese as you can. You're going to get a little bit messy. It's just fine. You can clean yourself up. You can clean your work surface. It's all fairly combined. The cream cheese is a little warmer now, so it'll be easier to work with. I'm going to go ahead and add it to my blender. Next, we're going to add a cup of heavy cream. We're going to need a cup of our sour cream, and then our eggs, the juice of a whole lemon, because we want a little acidity to play against the sweetness of this dish, and then some vanilla bean paste. And you could use vanilla extract if you wanted to, but you'll probably need about half or at least a little bit less than the vanilla bean paste, because it's way more intense. Go ahead and pop my top on that. And this next part's going to be loud and a little obnoxious, but I'm going to blend this for about 45 seconds to a minute, give or take, and then give it a taste and see if I need any more lemon or vanilla or any of those things. Make sure to give it a little taste. It needs a little bit more vanilla for my flavor, and I know what you're thinking, but truly, there's raw egg in that. I'm not supposed to be eating raw eggs, which is true. You don't want to eat a lot of raw egg, but a tiny little bit just to test the flavors isn't going to hurt you. I'm going to give it another quick mix, give it another taste. It's perfect now. Just going to pull this little stir stick out, get as much of that deliciousness off there as I can, being careful not to cut myself on the blades because they are very sharp. And then we're just going to very carefully dump all of our batter into our mold. Use my rubber spatchy boy to make sure I get everything out of there, or as much as I can, I suppose. And then just even it out across the top and try and get all the graham cracker covered. And this is going to rise a little bit, so you want to be careful and leave a little room on this edge or it's going to overflow and make a gigantic mess. Stop eating the batter. I know it's delicious, but you're going to get yourself sick. Now please listen, this next part is extremely important. You will ruin the cheesecake if you don't listen to me carefully. If you just put the cheesecake in the dish that it's in the oven, and that's it, you're going to crack the top and it's not going to be good. To prevent that, what we're going to do is take an oven-safe dish that's about halfway full of water and set it on our tray with the cheesecake. And what this is going to do is help add some humidity to the oven, so as the cheesecake is cooking and then cooling down in the oven, it doesn't crack over the top because it's got plenty of moisture to keep it nice and silky smooth. And we're going to be cooking this at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 40 minutes. Now the other very important part of this is when your oven goes off and the 40 minutes is up, do not open your oven under any circumstances. As soon as you open the oven and that humidity comes out, the top of your cheesecake is going to crack. So once your oven goes off, leave it closed and let it sit in the oven from anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half, or until it seems like the oven has come back down to room temperature. This is going to be how you keep your cheesecake from cracking and getting weird and rubbery on top. And if you don't do this, it's going to ruin the cheesecake. I am telling you this right now for your own good. So please, please listen to me on this. But with all that said and ready to go, we're ready to put our cheesecake on the center rack, again at 350 degrees for 40 minutes and then cooling down in the oven for about an hour to an hour and a half. And I'll see you when that's done. Alright, the cheesecake's done. We got a nice top, no cracks, no nothing. Now what I want to do is let this sit on the countertop for about 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and then I'm going to cover it loosely with some plastic wrap and pop it in the fridge overnight for at least about 12 hours, and then it'll be ready to cut and serve. So I'll see you in the morning when it's ready to go. Alright, so a buddy of mine told me I might be able to do this. Let's give it a shot. Holy cow, it actually worked. So as you can see, there's no cellophane on the top. I'm gonna be honest, I got myself in a little bit of a rush yesterday and needed the counter space, so I just went ahead and put a pot lid on it overnight, which worked just fine. I did try and use cellophane too quickly, and these little missing parts were the result of that. I don't mind myself, I'm not selling it in a bakery. This thing will be lucky to last the whole rest of the day and not just get devoured in the next couple hours. These cheesecakes don't tend to last very long in my house, if I'm being honest. I'm not a big sweets guy, but I can devour a cheesecake. Let's go ahead and get this thing out of its little cake pan prison. That's one of the nice things about having these kind of pans. Then I put a lining on the bottom, so this should come off. Super easy. And would you look at that? Nice ring crust. I'm sure it's pretty thick on the bottom. I can't tell yet. Let's cut a slice off and see how it looks. Ooh, super light. Really easy to get into. Crispy bottom, just what I want to see. Probably should have pulled that paper off before I took a slice off. And one of my tests personally to make sure my crust was done right is if I can lift it up, and like a good piece of pizza, it doesn't fold over. Unless you like New York pizza, it's fine. If you like a little floppy slice, that's fine, whatever. Just gonna go ahead and take a little piece off the end, see how it turned out. Goes through the cheesecake really nice. The crust is fairly easy to get through. Oh my goodness. It's super light, it's not dense at all, a little fluffy. Maybe a little too light because there's kind of little bubbles in the top. That's fine. I just over blended it a little bit. So whatever. The tartness of the lemon kind of makes your taste buds want to dance. And then the vanilla comes in on the back end, on the back of your tongue. And the creaminess of the dairy and everything else in there gives it a whole body. And then the cinnamon and the sugar of the crust just kind of round it off and make it everything it needs to be. God dang, that's good. But there you go. You've made your first cheesecake. But as always, as I like to say, if it's bad for the heart, it's good for the soul. See you in the next one. Oh, hello. You're still here. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you've enjoyed what you've seen so far, or are new to the channel, or have seen other videos, maybe think about subscribing. I'm not going to hardly ever ask to subscribe. I do my best not to, but I've seen that about 80% of the people that watch this channel aren't subscribed, but are returning viewers, so maybe go ahead and go on down there and hit the subscribe button. I don't know. I'd also like to let you know that I'm going to be skipping next week's video. I've been working on some new recipes, but it's taken me a little longer than I'd like, and I don't really want to put out a video that I don't feel like is ready to be put out. I'd rather give you guys quality over quantity. I try and maintain that Tuesday upload, but some recipes are harder than others. This one, for example, I started yesterday at about 8 a.m., and it's now almost 10 o'clock, so they take a little time, take a little effort. But if you're new, welcome to the channel. And if you're a returning viewer, I appreciate you. I'm glad you're around. Anyway, I'll see y'all in a couple weeks for the next video, and have a wonderful day.